The bone of contention in the current conflict as of now, as brought out by the Prime Minister, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau also, that they wanted to protest against the killing of their one so-called citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now, before we go into detail, we have to understand who was this Nijjar guy and what was his credentials. It is very funny. When there was an event which was supposed to be organized in the honor of Indian High Commissioner in Canada, and Khalistani separatists, they just did not allow this event to happen. Also, she came to Canada 1 year before by getting married to another guy. India has changed a lot. Earlier, India used to follow a dozier policy. I'll call it a dozier policy. So whenever anything used to happen in India, attack in Jammu and Kashmir, attack in Pathankot, terror attacks in India, even somebody is doing something against India, we just used to make a dossier, send it to UN, send it to somebody else, and not used to take any kind of actions. The bone of contention in the current conflict as of now, as brought out by the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau also, that they wanted to protest against the killing of their one so-called citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now, before we go into detail, we have to understand who was this Nijjar guy and what was his credentials. It is very funny. So Nijjar went to Canada in 1997 on a fake passport, and on that fake passport, his name was mentioned as Ravi Sharma, not Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So imagine who all travel on a fake passport. People who are fugitives who travel on a fake passport. Why he traveled on a fake passport? Because already he was involved in anti-India activities in Punjab due to this Khalistan movement, and he was wanted, and he thought of finding a safe haven like other Khalistani fugitives to Canada. We'll discuss it further why fugitives all across the world are finding it a safe haven in Canada. That we'll discuss it further. But let's take up this case of Nijjar. So 1997, he went over there, and then he asked for a status of a refugee, stating that I belong to a persecuted community in India. My community is being harassed and all these things happening, and I am a leader, and I was tortured by the police. I was tortured by this. He created so many stories. And again, in 1997, February 1997, when he landed in Canada, he created this story, and he put up his application for a refugee status to get settled down in Canada. The investigation went on for long, and on 10th November 1998, about 10 year and a half plus, his application got rejected. That you cannot be granted a status of refugee, and the grounds on which you are asking the refugee status is fake. Now, Nijjar has to stay in Canada. So what he did, after 11 days of his cancellation of rejection of this refugee status, he got married to a lady who was a Canadian citizen, who was a from Sikh community, but a Canadian citizen. Now, I will not name the lady, but this lady also, she came to Canada 1 year before by getting married to another guy, just to get the citizenship.
So this was a cycle.
So it is like a cycling. So the kind of, you call it kabutarbaji, you kind of human trafficking, you call it. So this lady came to Canada from Punjab about a year back on the pretext of getting married to another Canadian national. When she reached Canada, got married to him. After 6 months, she divorced that guy and got married to Nijjar. And by virtue of she being a Canadian citizen, Nijjar also applied for a Canadian citizenship, and he became a Canadian citizen later on. So this is the overall status of Nijjar. Now, since then, he has been involved in many anti-India activities, and including there was in 2007, there was a bomb blast in Punjab in one cinema hall, in which Nijjar has been labeled as the main accused, main mastermind of it. After which India started taking it at the international level. There was a warrant issued against him from India. Later on, even in 2017, Interpol also issued a red corner notice. So you understand the meaning of a red corner notice. That means he's a worldwide fugitive, and any country harboring it should also be handing it over to the respective country with Interpol red corner notice. and with an award of 10 lakh rupees by NIA. So he was not a citizen. He was not a normal citizen in any case. He was a very, very prominent fugitive who was not only wanted by India, but also wanted by Interpol with a 10 lakh reward. And entire history of Nijjar coming into Canada, right from his arrival in 1997 to getting married to a lady in 1998, then getting involved in various kind of activities. So they're all, none of it can be called as a clear thing. They're all full of doubts, full of suspicions, and full of shady things. So that's the background of Nijjar.
Right, so he was involved in some killing recently also. Was
Yes.
it him?
So what is happening there are a lot of anti-India activities which has been happening in Canada. Other than that, Canada became a safe haven for all the fugitives. So a lot of gangsters, not from India, not only from India, from abroad, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from Thailand, from various countries of the world, they find Canada to be a safe haven, and they migrated to Canada in large number. And Canada has also become a very big hub of these gang wars. So, and Nijjar was not an exception. He was involved in some kind of gang running and all those things. He was also involved in some Gurudwara. There is also a lot of infight between the Sikh groups over there, over the control of Gurudwaras. So that is also one of the things which is happening in Canada. So multiple things we put together. So by knowing this, it is very difficult to say who killed Nijjar and how he was killed, under what circumstances he was killed, because his entire life was shady. His entire conduct was shady. He was a wanted criminal. And we will discuss it later also, what is the compulsion of Justin Trudeau to getting involved in this all. So there is a clear-cut thing about it. But this is in a nutshell about the credentials of Nijjar.
So when Nijjar moved, he already had an ecosystem which was helping him. So how did Canada become a hub for such anti-India elements?
So if you see Canada per se, outside India, if you see numbers, Canada has got the second highest population of Sikhs outside India in numbers. Like India has got about 2.8 crore population, but Canada also has about 8 lakh population. Now, when you talk about the same population in terms of percentage of total population, Canada currently has 2.2 to 2.3% of the Sikh population. Overall population of Canada is Sikh, whereas in India, the percentage is barely 1.7%. So the overall percentage of Sikh population in Canada is much higher than India. So they've already become a hub. Now, how this population graph rose very rapidly and very, you can say, surprisingly in last few years. If you see the Sikh population in Canada in 1990, 1990 was the time when the Khalistan movement was at peak in India. So 1990, the population of Sikh community in Canada was barely 40,000, which was 0.014% of the total population. So from 0.014% of the total population to 2.3% of the total population, they became there. The number swelled very, very fast. What happened after 1991? A large number of people who were involved in anti-India activities in Punjab, those who were so-called separatists, those who were relatives, also those who were looking for jobs, and primarily from Punjab, they started migrating in large numbers to Canada, very large number. And as I told you, the case of Nijjar, he got married to a lady got married to somebody else. So these kind of human trafficking networks, there was a machinery which was running these kind of human trafficking networks. And as a result, people were just going, and you see the trend from 1990 to 2005, every second house in Punjab was paying huge money. They were sending people to Canada. And overall, if you see few of the provinces of Canada, like British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, these provinces have become a big hub of Sikhs. In British Columbia, you cannot think of anything without the Sikh community. They run the entire thing. They've also become a very, very prominent political party now. So what happened now? Canada has got a lot of weakness in their law. The extradition laws are very weak. The prosecution laws are very weak. Canada is an open economy. Canada and Australia, they are quite open economy because they don't have enough manpower, human resource. So they're inviting the people all over the world to come to their country and work. And there's no check on this, because of which people are moving in big numbers. And they're settling down over there. Nobody's checking onto them. Nobody's checking their credentials. Nobody's verifying their antecedents. So it is becoming a global hub of this. So gradually what happened when Khalistan movement died down in India? It died down in India, 94, 95, 96, 97, it was almost died down. So ISI, Pakistani ISI found it to be lucrative to shift all these fugitives to Canada, because there was a significant population of Sikh people over there, and to run the system from there instead of running from India. They thought, okay, let's keep the movement active over there. And once the movement is active, we may later on launch it back to India. So that's how it became a hub of. Later on, they constructed a lot of gurdwaras, they got them fundings. These gurdwaras were under separatist leaders who kept on instigating people, kept on brainwashing the people, and creating an overall community who was anti-India. That was the reason I recollect recently, I just know the dates, I was just recollecting an incident when there was an event which was supposed to organize in the honor of Indian High Commissioner in Canada. And Khalistani separatists, they just did not allow this event to happen. When Indian High Commission approached the Canada administration, you provide the security, you provide the police. So they did not provide it all. They were totally neutral. They said, no, we will not do anything. You cancel the event. We will not provide you security. We will not provide you any kind of facilities. So that's how the attitude of Canadian administration also. They are completely helpless in front of these fugitives. So it has
it's
become
mainly their laws, weak laws.
So I'll tell you 5 reasons why Canada is becoming, in a nutshell, why it has become a hub of anti-India activities. Number 1 is a weak law, very weak law, prosecution laws. Number 2 is the very weak extradition treaties, rules. So it is very difficult to extradite a person from Canada. Number 3, a very large influence of Khalistani extremists and ISI over the religious institutions, over the society, over the people in majority of the areas. Number 4, we call about political compulsions of the governments. They are hell-bent because they have to take support. We'll discuss it later. And the very 5th is that the safe haven for any kind of terror network, any kind of criminal network, because of these, again, law and all. So they find it very easy. All the, you see, Goldie Brar and all these gangsters, they're operating out of Canada only. Nobody can extradite them.
True, sir. So, how is India managing it? Like, what is the change that India has brought about in dealing with such issues when it comes to terrorism from Canada?
So not only terrorism from Canada, we see terrorism as a whole for the entire of the world. So earlier India has changed a lot. Earlier India used to follow a dozier policy. I'll call it a dozier policy. So whenever anything used to happen in India, attack in Jammu and Kashmir, attack in Pathankot, terror attacks in India, even somebody is doing something against India, we just used to make a dossier, send it to UN, send it to somebody else, and not used to take any kind of actions. But by this way, you cannot run a big economy. India is a big economy. And nobody used to look at these dossiers. It is coming to an international organization, somebody may have a look, somebody may not have a look, and it ultimately bites the dust. So this dossier policy never worked. And primarily the reason why anti-India activities, anti-India elements have become so powerful worldwide is primarily because of this dossier policy. We never hit them hard. We never tried them diplomatically. We never told the concerned country to have a check on them. We just kept on sending dossiers. Sir, in your country, anti-India activity is happening, take my dossier. In Pakistan, terror attack happened in Kashmir, terror attack happened, sir, take my dossier. So that dossier policy ultimately failed. So now when things started happening, India started showing some kind of offensive postures. People are, of course, there will be heartburns everywhere. However, India is trying to solve this issue diplomatically, and we are trying to answer Canada in a tit-to-tat manner. They extradited one of our diplomats. We also extradited them. So we need to teach them in their own language that we will not take all this rubbish now, no longer. If you are hitting at our, if some anti-India elements are operating from your country, either you control them or we control them. We need to control them in any case.
Right, sir. So, Justin Trudeau had said these are alleged, these are allegations that he had. I mean, when he said that India may have carried out that attack in Canada, he said these are allegations. Yet they expelled our diplomat. Um, what Justin Trudeau has pretty much shot himself in the foot. He knows it. But what is the compulsion for Justin Trudeau to do this?
You see, the way Justin Trudeau could form his government in 2019, everything will be crystal clear. So when Justin Trudeau formed his, the elections took place, he was 13 seats short of majority. His party got 157 seats, whereas for the majority, they require 170 seats. So to get these 13 seats, he had to take support of a party which is known as the New Democratic Party. Now, what is this New Democratic Party? This New Democratic Party is run by Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, who himself is a separatist, who has wanted in India, and India even denied his visa in 2013. It is a typical separatist party. And today, Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, Justin Trudeau is in power because Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal's party is supporting him. Now, when we see this party, New Democratic Party, Dhaliwal's party, separatist party, they have been growing very strong in Canada over these years. They're growing very fast. And currently, almost these 5 provinces which I have told you, they have already formed a government in British Columbia. They are the biggest party in British Columbia. And they are the second biggest party in Alberta, Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. So with this
NDP.
factor, yes. Pardon?
Oh my God.
Yes.
So NDP
New Democratic Party, NDP, yes. So they are the second biggest party in 4 provinces, and they're the biggest party in 1 province. And their influence has been rising over the last 5 years, very rapidly. So Justin Trudeau knows that if he does not keep these people, these Dhaliwal's party or NDP on his right side, if he goes against them, next time he will not be able to stand in the race. Today he's got a collaboration with them. Today he's very close to them. In case his party does not get seats, they are the ones who are going to support him to become the next prime minister. So he's hoping on to that. So that is political compulsion. Nevertheless, Trudeau, even Canadian rulers, if you see his father's example also, in when this Kanishka bombing happened, so Talvinder Singh Parmar, who was the main accused in Kanishka bombing, India accused him. India wanted him to be extradited. And India approached Canada, but it was his father who refused the extradition, and ultimately, which resulted in...
This was early 80s.
Yes, 87. So it was Justin Trudeau's father. So they have been, yes. So they have been very supportive to the separatists from the very starting because of the political compulsions, as I told you.
Right,
so
sir.
In case they don't support these Khalistani terrorists, they will no longer be in power. Justin Trudeau will not, he will be wiped out from the political arena of Canada.
Right, sir. So, I was reading today, the Indian JSW company has put his takeover of a Canadian steel company on hold, and I mean, it's slowed down. The process has slowed down. What will be India-Canada, relations future in this scenario?
See, if you see the Indian and Canadian economies, there's no comparison actually. India is growing pretty fast. We are growing pretty fast, and economy is growing multidimensional. This is, as you rightly said, that JSW was going to acquire a Canadian company. It was not a Canadian company which was acquiring an Indian company. They were acquiring an Canadian. So if you see the bilateral trade, it is not so much that it is going to be affected, it is going to create a dent on India. But certainly this is going to create a dent on Canada. See, Canada per se, the biggest challenge Canada has got is the human resource. A large number of Indians are in Canada who are doing a lot of activities. If you pull out all these Indians who are staying in Canada on a permanent residentship, Canada will be nowhere. The entire Canada will shake immediately. So this thing Canada must understand. And of course, these kind of things, JSW has slowed down its process because it is quite uncertain about the future. Today, we have the diplomatic relationship. Tomorrow, we may not have.
Right.
Today, we have a bilateral trade relationship. Tomorrow, we may not have. So depending upon the attitude of Canadian government, so now Indian businessmen, Indian business houses will be quite reluctant to invest in Canada.
True. So, could I just ask you about the China angle too? Because China does support Trudeau, from what I understand.
So China is supporting
Want
anybody
to
who is
touch
an
upon
anti-India.
that?
China is supporting any power which is anti-India, directly or indirectly. However, there has not been any official statement from China about this current Khalistani row. But finally, when you see the China-Canada trade, it is not going to be very significant. And the way Canadian diaspora has been influenced by India, China cannot replace India in Canada in any case. It is just impossible. So they may do a diplomatic support, or they may support it from outside, but it is not going to create any kind of difference at the international level.
And others support Canada? What do you
See, Canada has traditionally been part of America. So they are not directly supporting it, but indirectly they're not also criticizing Canada's movements. But if a strong political party comes to Canada, so they will be able to make the entire difference. They'll be able to grow Canada many folds. You need to have a proper party who is a nationalistic party and who is not acting as a slave to these separatist groups. Currently, it is not happening. And that's what is causing heartburn. Not only, even America is not very happy with Canada's attitudes in this kind of thing. Because ultimately, everyone in the world, they want India to be on the right side. America also wants it. America does not want to spoil the relationship just because of Canada.
Also, I guess so many fugitives right next to America is a threat to their
No, but they're
own.
in Canada. They're in Canada. It is very difficult for them to move to America. America is quite strict about it.
Okay.
And America's extradition laws are also very easy. In Canada, the extradition laws are very, very weak. So if a fugitive is wanted in India, and if he goes to Canada, and if he is able to get a refugee status, Canada does not extradite it. It says, okay, he's a refugee with us. So that is the reason why it is very difficult to extradite a person from Canada.
Right.
They don't believe on the other countries' courts. They don't believe on other countries' investigation agencies. Niger is the right example. Niger had a 10 lakh reward on him. Niger was wanted since 2007. Last 15 years, he was wanted, had a 10 lakh reward from NIA, and he was moving freely in Canada. Gurpatan Singh Pannu, moving freely in Canada. So many people. Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal is one of the part of the government in Canada. So everybody is, there's no check on them.
Right, sir. So thank you so much for keeping it so informative and hard-hitting.